meeting. Participants chat. We'll wait for that to come up. Keep this moving over. There's the board. There. Better. A little bit. Don't know. All right, there we go. Let's start again. I showed you all. I made some changes. I like changes.
Got every notification at 2 in the morning.
That's whenever I was making changes for this class. I didn't. I did go to sleep. I think I went to sleep somewhere around 3:30. No, 4:30. Like 4:30. I don't think it may have been 5. I don't know. Yeah, we've had that stage of the year. Thanksgiving's coming. I'll be nicer after that. All right, so here we are in criminal law. So how many of those notifications does it give you every time like open up a folder, or is it like posting out an assignment, that kind of thing?
It says every test that's assigned and then test due and then content added. So
That's what gives you everything.
test post.
So you probably got a whole,
Separate.
that means I have a whole bunch of those.
I think it's
So I built an entire course of the weekend. I got some work done. You're making me feel good. All right, so all of you online, let's double check, make sure you can hear me. Test. Yes, okay, excellent. This should, this recording's been good. I like to spotlight me because I'm very vain. Spotlight for everybody. There we go. Yes, even though I'm not on camera right now. It's all about it. So here's what I did. I reorganized. If you go, thank you. I do need that reminder. Share screen. You guys can see this. One. So I reorganized the course shell in Blackboard a little bit. So under learning modules, what I've done is you got the information for joining by Zoom if you ever need it. It's right there. It says only for Zoom students. It's like, yeah, you need to be in the classroom. If you can't be here, though, I said, unless you're previously. I prefer that, but if you can't be here and you can't notify me, at least sign in. Part 1 through 5, 6. I'm actually gonna move this one down a little bit because I'm gonna moving all of the graded stuff together. So if you're missing anything, you'll see it all right together. Right. So if you go and you check your grades, here are the items that are out there. Quiz, well, assignment 1, quiz 1 through 5, exam 1. I actually just opened that one up yesterday because we did our review and no one mentioned I didn't open it up in here. And I was like, oh. I hope you guys noticed it wasn't open and it was a deliberate choice because that makes me feel better. If it's one of those things like you didn't notice, then I feel a little bit bad. It's like you should be paying attention. But if it's a deliberate choice, that means you wanted the extra week of time and you got it and you won. So that makes me feel really happy for you all. That's looking at the bright side. I went ahead and opened up parts 8 through 11. That's the rest of this. We're into part, I think we're in 8, maybe 9 now. I have to look at that. I added out assignment 2. So assignment 2, I actually had a couple others. Out of all the 4 assignments we had, we kind of run out of time. And we had a choice. And so this is the one I think is probably the most important because when we talk about that, I'm going to talk a little about history and a little about movements too. Because what this is related to sex offender registration. That's something we didn't talk about related to sex crimes. That's a whole other process involved. It isn't technically a punishment, but it is associated with those type of crimes. It's important we track it. We track it. Victory. I like victory. That means it was a choice. Admit to the people. Okay. So assignment 2 is out there. I think I set the deadline for that to 27th. Yeah. Most of I think I only made the one thing due next week besides the quiz or the exam itself. You got this due Monday and then quiz 6. And then everything else I paced out a little farther. And I'm only putting out, let's see, it was a quiz 7. It was a quiz 8.
I think there's a quiz 8.
I literally remember seeing a quiz 8 this morning. Why is this not showing?
Because that's later.
No, well, it's still being important.
No, because they do the 4th. I thought I should.
Yeah, I thought I did too. I had some issues with Blackboard last night, so this wouldn't be the first time that happened. I could have it out of order here. Part 8. I literally remember setting that up. Yeah, I don't know. I'll figure that out. That's not due for a while, so we got time. The way that I run all of my quizzes by now, not notices, nothing closes. Get it done, right? You wait until like the last month, I probably will start deducting points depending on how long you waited. It might be serious. So get stuff in. Yeah, so there's that going on. Other things we need to talk about. If we had more time, I'd talk a little about stuff going on in the world, but we might get into stuff that's going on in the world, just the way these topics always work. Let me go here. I need to make sure I downloaded stuff. Downloads, we're into, no, this is 7. I thought that already downloaded. We'll take a look at that. Property crimes, malicious. There's a couple things I need to talk about property, and then we move off into the next section, which is more fun. Crimes against government. That's where we're moving next. Get this downloaded in here. It's 9. Where's 8? Maybe that one too. That. Crimes against government. What was one between those two? 8. All right. Boom. All right. Outline is crime against the public order. There we go. So these two will go hand in hand. Crimes against order versus crimes against government. The underlying theme I want you guys to think about, how do we separate those two things? Like we're going to classify this one. Crime. We'll start here. This back up. Go ahead and share the screen. Thank you. I might stop share for a second. I'm not seeing the buttons. Participants. There we go. That's weird. It popped up when we're stop share. Okay, share screen. 8 is where we're at. Okay. Markers? Just these.
All right. Public order. Govern.
In general. Okay, so we've got 3 types up on the board right there. If you can see that, this marker doesn't work the greatest. Okay. So I put criminal law in general, public order, government. Right? Think about your injured parties. What kind of damage is done? What kind of harm is actually produced? Okay. Criminal law in general is everything that we talked about to this point. All right. Crimes against property, crimes against persons. When we're talking about 2 things I kind of skipped over in terms of 7. We'll come back to that one. Let's say this one right here, stolen property. We've got several different types of crimes there. You can be, buying it, receiving it, stealing it, possessing it, all of those types of things. Which ones do we criminalize? Everything, right? You know you're buying it, do we punish you? Yes. Do you know you're receiving it, do we punish you? Yes. Do you know you're possessing it, do we punish you? Okay, what happens if you don't know and you're in possession of it? Do we punish you? Yeah. Right? Why is that? Okay. So in general, we've been talking a lot about, you see a little bit about your act, your intent, that kind of stuff. And yeah, we'll make it relate and say, this is concurrence. These are when these things line up together and that kind of stuff. These 2 right here are different animals entirely because who the injured party is. think there's another one that looks better. Okay. Who is injured here? Criminal law. Pick a crime. Give me a crime.
Racketeering.
Racketeering. Okay, so who's harmed in that? Really hard to identify someone who's hurt in that, right? You're gonna be up here somewhere. That's a battery. Who's the injured party? Yeah. That victim, what does that victim look like? Say what?
In a person.
Yeah, that's actually what I'm going for right there. Like if I really, like, if you guys did give me that answer, I would have been like, no, okay, let's go stereotype. Describe me a victim to X type of crime, and like demographics, age, things like that. And it's like, yeah, what I'm getting here is this is individual, right? Yeah, you can have some great group stuff like where it's like, yeah, there are multiple parties that were injured in this. Yeah, so you got that that's going on. No, I thought this was something else came in. That's gonna be you or me, one of us, right? Like a real person. It's real. That one's real. Racketeering? Is that real? I don't know, right? I see numbers on a page. That's what I see. Maybe I see some more money in somebody's wallet, maybe, but that's like several steps down the road. What's the difference between racketeering and just normal corporation crap? I don't know, right? If I said, oh, big pressing issue we'll do with COVID lockdowns, we'll say, depending on your business size and your corporate connections to your political connections, whether or not you had to close down your business, right? That's what we're talking about there. It's like, is there an injured party there? Yeah, but that's not the same thing as in like, you got a person here who's got some real injury. So if this is a victim as an individual, victim? Who's our victim there? Who's our victim here? I want you thinking about that because this asset may shed some light on some very serious stuff we've got going on in our world right now. Right? Biggest thing to think about, we're short on time, I'll give it to you directly. This one. This one. Aggregate. The public is not any one of us. It is all of us. Therefore, it is actually none of us. Not one of us controls it, so it's none of us. So whoever says or is in a position to identify what the hell this actually means, they're the ones who actually decide what that means. So whoever's in power here, they make that choice. There's where you get some of that conflict theory stuff, or maybe even some of the radical stuff. It's like, yeah, you got a point there. There's gonna be problems we're dealing with those. You'll see that just as soon as we crack into it. Over here. I don't know. When we say government, I don't know. I can't tell you that. Like, yeah, the book will say, oh, the victim here is the government. Yeah, what does that mean? I don't know. Are we talking about the government at large? Are we talking about governmental processes and how it affects people on aggregate? Or are we talking about the actual people in these positions? Because one of those I really don't care about. and depending on which one it is and what form it takes, whether it's positive or negative, because it can be either of those two, then we could be staring at all kinds of different things. It could be really, really good. We could be staring at personal health. Yeah, let's start there. Okay. Who your victim is here. What bearing does your victim have in terms of you're the prosecutor and you're going to make a decision about whether or not you prosecute a case? Extra coordinated today. Like a sleep. It has zero, nothing, doesn't do anything, right? Prosecutor will take that into consideration, but they will not make that solely, exclusively off of this, right? When we were talking about that, I gave an example for, I think it was domestics. It's like, yeah, at the time there's something going on bad right now, we want action. When it comes to involving the government and the governmental process, now you're gonna be spending the next couple of years involved in it. Most people don't want to do that. So, yeah, I understand that. The prosecutor has that discretion themselves, so it has nothing to do with that. They'll take it into consideration here. But here and here, if we don't have very real people, there's no one here that's actually injured. What affects my decision here? Whatever I want, whatever I think needs to. That can be really, really, really good if you got someone, a group of people in there who are responsive to an area's needs. Whether you're here, here. You get people in who are only self-serving, only interested in their own benefits for being in these positions. This is nightmare territory. Where are we at now? Don't really know yet, but we'll get there. Okay, so we'll talk about extortion and blackmail real quick because it's going to tie in with maybe more about government. So you guys are familiar with mischief, trespass. Mischief is the same thing like vandalism, that kind of thing. It's like you're just causing trouble to cause trouble. Most stuff on that. Low level, very, very common, just like trespass. Less serious, more common. The frauds, a whole bunch of types. Be familiar with what each of these means. Like mortgage is pretty straightforward. Healthcare is straightforward. Mail and wire may not be. You might want to look in that one a little bit. Securities, that's going to have to do with money and investments and stuff like that. You probably want to look at that one a little bit. Extortion and blackmail, they're the same thing. Essentially, they're the same thing. The difference between those two terms is it's extortion if you're a governmental agent, like, and you're the victim. It's blackmail if it's you or me. Yes.
What defines government agent? Because
Anyone who's any federal employee, any state employee, anyone of any type of position that's tied in with a governmental
so
agency.
you just like move boxes for like, you know, some low level branch here. So
Example, okay? I'm the person who answers the phone for the front door to, I don't know, we'll say government building that doesn't really do anything, right? So I'm just here answering. That's not really, that's just a job to get me, right? You see countries that take those turns where it's like, usually see it when they go start going communist, and it's more about, okay, this job is not really a job, it's just a way for us to say that we've got a justification to send you money, that kind of thing. You'll see that in some places. What you find is those jobs don't do anything. That's why government's always ineffective, right? It's more about paying the people than it is any actual work. That's one thing, right? Okay. So let's say you're the lowest level person and you're answering phones. Can you be extorted? What kinds of things are you gaining access to, and how can I use that to benefit me? Let's say you're like 6 persons away from someone who I actually want to have influence over. Maybe you're an avenue and I can use that to get access to that person. That would still be blackmail. Okay, I found out that I don't know what would be something that would affect you in that kind of a position. Let's say it's something low level, governmental position, drug use. That's a common one. Okay, we'll go with that one. Okay. I saw you out in public on X night, and you were intoxicated on substances that will still be in your system at this point in time. Hey, I saw you over the weekend. I really want to meet with your boss. So you should set up that meeting, because if you don't, maybe I'll find another way to meet your boss and I'll let them know that kind of thing. Yeah, you're right there in that extortion territory. It's what are you getting out of it kind of thing. If you look at the statutes, I downloaded something. It'll go into that. That's something it's getting. 8. No, that should be. Let's see. Downloads. Just give me the names. Come on. Is that open? There we go. All right, lift off. Arson, first degree. Misappropriating, that's embezzlement. There's conversion again. Converting to your own goods. Penalties, fraud. How about that? Solicitation, loss, fraud, false pretenses. When you start talking about false pretenses, that you start getting close to confidence games, that kind of stuff. Yep, you're a con man. Stolen, we knew that. Already. Trespass, don't care about. Extortion, there you go. Ain't probably another. Fear of force. Public officer. Under color of the office when it's not due. So that's the big thing. Here it is. Something about the victim. Extortion. Paying property from another, his consent induced by under color of official right, meaning it's associated with that position. Anytime you say the phrase under the color of law, it's like police officers, are you performing any duty that's associated with that in that position? If you are, even though you might not be on duty, you're acting under the color of law. Be like mayor, you're making a decision about some, we'll say it's some type of funding issue that you're having, whether it's 4 o'clock in the afternoon or 7 o'clock at night. Like, if you're making decisions related to that kind of stuff, you're here. You're right under that official, color of law. Right. Computer crimes, that's going to be a huge growing area. It's how much is out there, how much you can do with that, how well you can hide it. It's undue. Computer Crimes Act, that kind of stuff. Identity theft is a big growing area. You'll all run into that at some point. Okay, that was that. This one. Crimes against public order. Yeah. So all of these are going to be very, 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 very low level. Right? What are we talking about here? Breach of the peace, you're noisy? This is a noise complaint. Okay. Next up. Disturbing the peace. Grossly outraging and openly outraging public decency. Injurious acts not expressly forbidden. Every person who willfully wrongfully commits an act, grossly injures a person, property, grossly disturbs public peace, openly outrages public decency, but not limited to urination to the public, and is injurious to public morals. No punishment is expressly prescribed for this code. Guilty of a misdemeanor. So it gives you that. So it's not specifically said you're looking at misdemeanor. Things like urinating in public. Okay. Who polices that stuff? Okay.
Like the people around you, you don't do it because you don't want to be judged, I guess.
Yeah. Complaint. Who complains? People complain. Some people complain more than others. People complain a lot. Those are the ones you're running into here. That'd be like saying, you guys won't experience this yet, and hopefully you never do, but you've probably heard someone say, like, homeowners associations, they have no real power. They're a pain in the ass, right? It's because of these people. It's these people that drive this, right? Because it's not going to be you listening to the neighbor who's playing rap music that you don't like, but you don't really care, and you don't want to get off your butt to do something about it. You don't want to call someone else to do it. They're not going to have any problem with you. They're going to have a problem with this person. Don't stop fucking calling my dispatch line. I need that for emergencies, or I need that for something. And I've got 6 complaints from this person. You gotta do something about that. Yeah, it's like, and it's not 6 complaints, it's 6 complaints today. Okay? So that's who's driving this. The people who are the most strict, the most, maybe unhappy might be the word there. I don't know. That's kind of a judgment. I wouldn't go so far as to say that. I would say the people who are strict is probably the best word there. Those who have the most desire to control the actions of others. That's another way of putting it, right? And now you're talking about very, very, very low level stuff. It's going to get you involved with the criminal justice system, all because you got some people around you who like to complain. Yeah, that's how this all works. Scrutiny is one of those things I talk a lot about in the criminal justice system. The more scrutiny you're under, it's sometimes a good thing, sometimes a bad thing, right? You have people in power. It's like you love scrutiny. You love it. Why? Because I don't want them to move. They got too much power. I don't want them to move. It's dangerous if they do, right? Then you have you or I and little things like this. There's public decency, you know, loud or unusual noises, violent language, obscene language. It's like, okay, there are different thresholds for different people on all of those things. All of those things will have some type of statutes attached to them. At some point, we officially have to make some move to address this complaint, or it's going to get worse. Right? Let's focus on that for just a quick second, then we'll move on to government stuff. Okay, the types of things that this covers: sounds, language, threats. Okay, threats, you start getting into a different area. When we start saying language, boom, fighting words. Freedom of speech is not freedom from, consequences, possible, whatever. Words that have a tendency to incite violence by the person to whom they're directed. Chplinsky versus New Hampshire. That's identifying fighting words. It's not the words themselves per se, but the intent behind them and how you're using them. Okay, so what are we trying to do here? We're trying to now have some measure for what it is I'm trying to do, my intent and the words that I'm using, and how now they interface with you, any one-on-one. Hell, maybe it's a group thing. Because if you're talking about group thing, well, we'll get to the group stuff here in a second. And then we'll start talking about stuff more widely in society. And let's see, incite violence. How do I know if something's going to incite violence in somebody? Okay, that's a whole wide range of things. Some of those are pretty obvious, right? Like I said, you walk up to someone, you use slurs, bad language, major insults. Like, yeah, that one's kind of, you can tell that one pretty quickly, right? Not always though. That makes this a lot more difficult. Now, how many things do I need to consider whenever I'm considering the language that I use when I'm talking to people? Ooh, here's an interesting thing to think about in terms of a number of things you've learned in here, like on campus related to these things. What does this do for prejudice? Prejudging people. This will make it worse. Why? Because now I have to look at you and make an assumption on whether or not the words that I use will do this. Will they tend to incite violence in people? Well, who am I talking to? Now that we're back in that prejudice territory. We made that worse. Okay, good job. This is really hard to do. Okay. On a one-to-one thing, social interactions are extremely difficult. Okay. Now we'll add in groups. Because if you got one person, what's going to happen? There's a statute for it. I'll go for that in a second. You got one person, it's hard. You got more than one, it's impossible. Okay. Use of language calculated to arouse anger, cause a breach of peace. Profane, violent, abusive, insulting. $100, 30 days. Disorder, vagrancy, loitering, we'll come back to those. I want to get to. We'll come back to those. Inhaling toxicants in public places. That's the one I want to get to. That's the one that bears today. That's the one we're on. In terms of society, today's world. Where are we at? We don't know who the public order is. We don't. So if we did, 2020, what the hell were we doing? Was it an assembly, an unlawful assembly, a rout, or a riot? And if you can answer with any one answer to anything that happened in 2020, it's like, no. This is all of the above, but it's all at the same time. And it's like, okay. In one place, you might have open conflict. In another, you've got the mayor not spray painting, but repainting main streets of huge cities with banners that support the cause. Like I said, we don't know where we're at in this. This is where we're at in terms of our society right now. It's really a dangerous position, right? If I told you that in 2020 alone, a single courthouse was repeatedly firebombed for weeks on end while there were people inside, I think you'd probably be down here, right? Most people probably would, but some of those areas where that stuff was happening, no. Okay. So it's a process, this stage, right? Assembly, we have the ability to assemble. I think there was a meme about that went out around 2020, wasn't there? Like, where does this say peaceful? I remember seeing that somewhere. I don't know where. Well, I was kicking around my head. There's a video of a guy eating green noodles. So it's like right there in the amendment. The First Amendment says peacefully assemble. It's peaceful, right? You get beyond peaceful, you're here. Unlawful assembly, right? Meeting of 3 or more persons to disturb the peace. Okay, so are they actually disturbing the peace, or is it just to disturb the peace? That's one question. Okay. Intention of participating in forceful, violent execution of unlawful enterprise or lawful enterprise in unauthorized manner. So why you might meet with multiple people, right? Politics, maybe the force of violent execution of unlawful enterprise, maybe it's more like maybe it's more separate out of money. You can go focus on the money aspect if you want to with enterprise, but really it's just any type of purpose that unites people. Enterprise. That's what we're talking about. From there, route. There's your attempt. Are you trying to put this plan into action? You've started to gather. Now you're making a plan. Step 1, gather. 2, plan. 3, did you carry it out? If you did, you're at a riot. Okay. Now, if I said that there were many groups that were coordinating events that had force or violence, and it was for a lawful or unlawful purpose, where are we at? Well, I think we clearly identified that a large part of the country doesn't know exactly what that means, right? Not associated with politics, more like as in, okay, who is the public? And what the hell does this mean in terms of the public, right? Because if that public has shifted, public sentiment has shifted, then they're in control, and it's not a riot, unlawful sentiment. It's socially acceptable because this is all socially informed. That's where we're at. That's the implication for that. That's a big one. That's not a good one. Okay. From there, here we go. Statutes. Riot. Any force or violence, any threat of to use force or violence, if accompanied by immediate power of execution by 3 or more persons acting together without authority of laws. Okay. With the way that that's written, as open as that's written, does that apply to every protest where there's any criminal activity whatsoever? Yes. difference between what classifies as a riot and what is not public sentiment. That's not gonna be something any of us directly control. That's where we're at. Route, 3 or more persons make an attempt, which would be a riot if they actually committed it. Which would be unlawful assembly, persons assembling or acting in concert with 4 for the purpose of engaging in conduct that would constitute a crime. Yeah. Go. Weapons offenses are covered in this section too. I've already talked about those to some degree. DC versus Heller, that's the one where they wanted to regulate the condition of one's firearms, one's ability to defend oneself in your own home, meaning you don't have access in your own home. It needs to be in a state that's inaccessible to where if you need it, you need to go get access, which is not wise. That's not how those things develop. There is some statutes related to unlawful carrying a weapon here in the state. This varies a lot, state by state. This is one of the few areas where it's like there's some licensing there. It's not nationally recognized. What's best there is maybe reciprocal agreements between states, maybe. And that's if the state even recognizes the fact that it's a constitutional right. When we're talking about crimes against government, crimes against public order and things of that nature, this one, so I think there was a phrase I had in here. I have it in the next slide. No, it's not that one. Maybe it's in this, the outline thing. That's new search. There we go. Weapons are a major criminal and political problem in the United States. Yes. Calademos, Supreme Court apparently agreed that the city could ban outright the sale and ownership of all guns, right? So that's where it was in the 80s. So that's an argument that still is out there now, right? Evidence. Arizona executive order. Guns. You remember hearing about that one, right? We brought that up and stuff that was going on daily. I mentioned that a few weeks ago. It's like, yeah, you got this governor over here that they're banning your constitutional rights just with the sign of a letter. And when it was thrown out in the judicial process, you know, if this person turned around and did it again, right? Exact same thing. Is it legal? Is it not? Is it a violation of your rights? Is it not? What is that going to determine? Well, who is going to determine that? Public. Okay. The purpose of that SORNA assignment. To some degree, that's going to get to this and this complaints. What to do if you have one and it's not being dealt with. Well, this is what one family did and the movement that they did. If I said Walsh, that name probably doesn't sound as familiar to you all as it does me. Adam Walsh. Does that name sound familiar to any of you? Why? You aren't quite old enough to
Not experienced.
Every week, there was a TV show called America's Most Wanted, hosted by John Walsh. His dad. In that, dig into it a little bit to find out what happened to that family, because it's horrible. As you do that, as you read the act, what you should see from that is that family's perfect fucking mission to make sure that what happened to their son as a result of a released sex offender doesn't happen again. One of the big social movements, it literally started with one incident, not really, but one big incident, a whole lot of incidences. That complaint affected the public. That affected changed the law. But right now, we don't know what public is, so we gotta start working on the social side of things. Let's see, crimes against weapons, we talked about that. Let's get back to where it actually was. We're talking about early stuff. Okay, fighting words, disorderly conduct, all that good stuff. We'll go to public decency. That's where I want to go next. No, that's not this. 8. Lawful carry, public passages. That one's been happening a lot. Just over with the last weekend, or was it last week, where a dude here in the States had enough of social movement blocking freeway, decides to hop out of his vehicle and puts a couple rounds in people, kills them. Like, do you guys, this sound familiar to you guys? Okay, hold on. Not that. Driver shoots road blockers. That one's not recent. Let's go news. That's still not recent. Sort by date. That's not the right one. 1 month ago. That's still not the right one. You're gonna make me do this. I think that's what it was. This guy. A lot of people listen to stuff on the internet. This
The other
guy,
day,
I don't want
at
to
4
hear you.
p.m.
Shut up. Okay. Videos. Right here. Boom. Elderly man shoots 2 eco activists.
This is
I don't care. 2 eco activists hot fucking highway. Basically, elderly man kills them both. Why? They're in his way. It's enough of a hindrance, enough of a hassle that by the time I've gone through my daily routine for 70 years, how old he is. Yeah, I'm not gonna put up with this shit anymore. I'm about ready to check out. Get the hell out of my way. No? Okay, you're in everybody's way. I'm tired of this. It's like, that's really messed up. Yeah. Part of this system we have is to keep people from taking this steps like those, right? We don't want people to take law into their own hands. We want them to use this system. Not looking good there. Systems can fail. Animal abuse. Okay. If we had more time, I would show you the punishments associated with this. Why? Because I showed you the punishments associated with property and the punishments associated with messing with people. Some reason we care more about animals, I guess. I don't know. If you look at the timelines that are associated with that, punishments are more severe than most violence to people, even children. Cruelty to animals. Here it's not so bad. Not exceed 5 years. Some places it's worse than that. Lewdness, obscenity, indecency. Okay. What is lewd? What is indecent? What is obscene? What do those things mean to you? Can you see a picture in your head that would be like an example of each of those things? Don't tell me about it. Just keep it in your head because I can't talk about it. But what is the difference between that and art? I don't know. I mean, it's like I'm walking through this building. I see there's an advertisement for what is it? The art people. I guess they're downstairs. I don't know. 6 number. Apparently, it's like you can go get drawn. You can go in there and draw pictures of them. Isn't that obscene? I thought that was obscene. No? Oh, okay. Here's another one for you. I'm gonna play basketball. I'm gonna play basketball. Right? Informally out at the park. I don't know which one. I go around a lot. Well, anyhow. I'm playing basketball. There's gonna be a big crowd at this one. And we're gonna get a couple teams going, just informal. Right? So we got at least 10 people here. I'm still kind of getting familiar with people there. What's an easy way to identify teams in basketball? If you don't have uniforms, you play shirts and skins, right? It's a co-ed group. Do I keep our teams co-ed or is it now guys versus girls? Doesn't matter. For this? Would it be obscene or indecent if it was co-ed shirts and skins? See where I'm going? Is it? No. Well, you get a ticket for it, yes. What does that mean? Constitutional challenge, this is discriminatory, sex-based. You can't enforce any of this at all. Like in terms of that, the toplessness, you can't enforce that. It is discriminatory in nature. However, get much beyond that, and then you're right clearly back in this territory. So we're still redefining these areas. Okay, indecent exposure exposes, lewdly exposes his or her person or genitals. Genitals, there you go. Yeah, it's like that one you couldn't get away with, but his or her person, that's that shirts and skins discussion. And that is one that quite directly, if you challenge that on the constitutionality due process, it's like, no, those don't stand. Historically, you can find cases of that. Okay. And it also includes soliciting children and more. Here's some nice sex stuff. Probably the only thing that's interesting here is probably these three, because you still have some of those that are elements of laws across the states. It used to be illegal to have sex outside of marriage. Like that's how much society has changed in the last 100 years. Like, wow, that's crazy. Seduction and adultery. So it's like sex in general, sex outside of marriage was another thing that would get you an additional charge. Seduction. Now where you find it is really just remains in the civil system. It's called alienation of affection. Meaning, if your state is one that recognizes that, guess what? You're married and all of a sudden your partner starts having an affair. You can sue their affair partner for all the more. And that's what you should do. Right? Because what they did is they alienated your affection. They seduced that person and destroyed the love that they had for you. They took that away from you. That's alienation of affection. You need money, right? That's how involved the system is. Okay. Bigamy, prostitution, talk about those, pornography. I'm not gonna get into that. Adultery, here's that one's still in the books. Bigamy is still in the books. Bigamy's one still comes up there. From there, punishments. Okay, indecent exposure. We're gonna come back and deal with some of the dress stuff. Okay, disorderly conduct, vagrancy, loitering. Get those two. You used to be a vagrant now. You don't like doing that. We call it loitering. The effects of low-level issues. That's probably would be the best thing to talk about for this topic. Why? You're talking about small issues with disorderly conduct and vagrancy. Areas that have problems, one will tend to have problems with both. If you look at, let's deal with vagrancy first. Okay. How you handle that can change an area entirely. Most people don't like these things to be heavily enforced. What does that look like? Okay. That can look like homeless people being run off or kids hanging out at the gas station getting run off by the police, stuff like that. Like, depending on how you handle that, your area, its populations can shift tremendously. That explains basically the homeless situation in most places. They're having issues with it right now, right? Look at California and some of the California, Colorado, those types of things. They have completely stopped enforcing these types of statutes. They don't do it anymore. Historically, what they would do is, yeah, you're vagrant, get picked up by the police. Maybe you go to the jail if you got in trouble for something. Maybe we just drop you off outside of our jurisdiction. That kind of thing. Move people out, give them a clear indication that they're not wanted there. Most people move. What it does for the city's health, really good. Maybe. What it does for those people, though, it's horrible. So that's a different story. Disorderly conduct. Similar with the homelessness issue, on one side of it. Probably the thing that pops out in my mind the most is how much cities have changed and society has changed. If I said violence and people's acceptance of it, all of you have basically been in a fight at some point in time. How many of you have ever had your nose broken? Only from a fight, I should say that. Nose broken only in a fight. Yeah, okay, so here's the difference, and where you really see. Still a big issue, still is in certain groups, still is in certain places. How much has changed over time? I've not had my nose broken. One generation back, maybe, 2 generations back. Each male of that generation had a nose broken at least once. The one that took the top number was my grandfather. He had it broken 7 times. Why? Fighting, disturbing, all that shit, right? The level we accept this varies a lot. I said Las Vegas. Yeah. Sometimes that you want this, sometimes you don't, depending on what you want to do. Drug stuff. Basically what I'll say for this for our last minute, status offenses. You'll talk about them in juvenile justice. Here's where you start to get a little quicker on the adult side. You can't have status offenses. That's making some state or condition of being illegal. Essentially what you'd be doing, here's a really clear example. It is illegal for you to be existing with a disability, right? It is illegal for you to be existing here and be Jewish. We're talking Nazi Germany, right? That's why we do this whole status. We don't do statuses at all because it always ends up there, right? You start dealing with the drug stuff. It's like, it's not the fact that you're intoxication, it's what you're doing, right? It's not like the DUI you get is not because you're under the influence, because you're driving. Public intoxication offense you get is not because you're intoxicated. We don't care if you're intoxicated. We care that you're in public and you're creating a disturbance. That's what we care about, right? Ron White, right? It's not that I was drunk and I'm out in public. I didn't want to be in public. I got thrown out of the bar. They threw me into public. Now I'm getting arrested. Yeah, that's how that works. All right. So we'll keep talking about drugs and alcohol next time. We'll roll more into drugs a little bit. And then we may get a few more points, switch over to government. We'll spend probably an hour talking about that one. And then we'll roll. Moving forward, guys. With that, have a great day.